Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me today as we continue in the book of Psalms and look at one of my very favorite Psalms, 133. One of my favorites. Great topic, just beautiful words, dealing with the issue of unity, that the encouragement of the for believers to work together, to live together uh, in in unity. And what a timely message for the church today, for believers to work together in unity. And many people have written and talked about how division, um, disharmony, disunity, whatever word you would like to use, um, has probably been the greatest hindrance to the expansion of the gospel. Um, Not your local liquor store or your local pornographer or whatever, but the division in the church itself. Um, Albert Barnes, in his commentary back in the 1700s, early 1800s, wrote this. He says, "No small part of the obstruction to the progress of religion in the world has been caused by the strife and contentions of the professed friends of God. A new impulse would be given at once to the cause of religion if all the followers of the Lord acted in harmony. If every Christian would properly recognize every other Christian as his brother, if every true church would recognize every other church as a church, until this is done, all that is said about Christian union in the church is a subject of just derision to the world." What an accurate statement. We so desperately need unity among believers, among churches, willing to come together, to work together, to share and to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so we will start. We're going to take this psalm really slowly. We're going to move through it deliberately, probably more deliberately than any other psalm so far. And as we look at the first verse, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." We have this opening verse that reminds us that it is good, that it pleases Him. The opinion of God is that it is good and pleasant for brothers to live together in unity. And the fact, somebody has written, the fact that God has to say this tells us that it's not always the case. That if that logic demands that if God says it's good and pleasant when they dwell together, then logic says that sometimes they don't, and that it's ugly, it's displeasing to God when they don't. And we see that biblically. We see throughout Scripture of divided families, of divided nations. At one point, we see Israel divided into two kingdoms. We see it biblically. We see division among the disciples at some point. We see division in the early church, in the epistles in the Bible. We see division throughout church history. We see division in church present. We know that disunity is a problem. And David uses this word. He says something there that's important, how important and how good it is for brethren, for brothers, to dwell together in unity. David is reminding us here that we're family, that um, we are one. We're bound together. We are hooked together spiritually. If you're a child of God, if I'm a child of God, if he's a child of God, if she's a child of God, we're we're bound together. We are part of the same family. And how good and how pleasant it is, he says, for the family to dwell together in unity. And I think about let's expand that idea of family. In a family, you've got brothers, sisters, mamas, daddies, cousins, aunts, uncles. They all have their own um, place. They all have their own life. They all have their own personality, but yet they're family. And it's good for them to be able to come together. Well, the church is the same way. Your church and that church down the street and that church over there, you may not share the same music style. You may not share the same worship style. You may have some differences in when you meet and how you meet. But if you're all worshiping Jesus and you agree on the primary doctrines of Scripture, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the virgin birth, um, you may not necessarily agree, um, for example, on baptism. Some people sprinkle, some people immerse. Um, that's I don't think that's a primary. I think we can have fellowship and we can work together and we can have unity. Now, if somebody's denying the virgin birth, we're not even the same family. So you see my point. Just as a family has their differences, they have different desires and likes, but they come together in unity. The Church of Jesus Christ and the believers it pleases God for us to come together and to work and to live in unity. We can disagree on some secondary and some tertiary doctrines, some things that really don't make much difference. I'm reminded of my friend Mark Courts, who many times would say everything the church votes on is not the virgin birth. There are doctrines, there are issues that are deal breakers. There's that they matter. Again, the virgin birth, the resurrection, Jesus Christ being the only way of salvation. That there are primary doctrines that we must agree on. But whether or not we're going to sing a contemporary song or an old song is not one of them. What version of the Bible we're going to read out of is not one of them. And we need to learn to work together in unity where the primary doctrines and primary teachings align. And that pleases God. We need to remember that. We need to keep that in our mind as we go about the work of the church and Jesus Christ. Have a great day, and we'll see you here tomorrow morning.